It's been an interesting week. I've only worn oud-based fragrances. In this video, I'll be talking you through all the fragrances that I've worn over the last 7 days. Hey, what's going on guys? Raj here. Hope all of you are well. So yeah, I've just been wearing oud fragrances for the last 7 days. I've got some like designer brands in here, some high-end niche luxury brands, some smaller independent artisanal oil makers, and I don't know why I decided to wear oud fragrances all this week. But it coincided with the UK having a spell of really amazing weather, so it was quite hot and I was wearing some pretty potent stuff. So let's crack on and start with Monday. I started the week off with a Frederic Malle fragrance, and that fragrance was The Moon. Two things to say about this one: it is potent and it is pricey. This is another addition to Frederic Malle's Desert Gems collection. I've been working off this sample here, so wore it for the first time. Well, actually, technically that's not true. I have actually worn this fragrance before in, I think it was Harrods when the first time I tried it. And the fragrance was created by Julian Rasquinet, I think that's how you say it. This is a sort of fruity, smoky, skanky fragrance. There is a lot going on in here. It can be a little bit overwhelming. It is, I find it quite heavy on the woods and musk, and there is a sort of smoky, fruity quality to this as well. So I'm still in the testing phases of this one, and yes, while it does have a potency, there is also a kind of addictive quality to this fragrance as well. Yes, it has a slight skanky side to it, but sometimes that's exactly what you need. That might sound strange to a lot of people, but it's the case. So Monday was definitely a strong start to the week. Moving on to Tuesday, and I wore an oil by the brand Abdul Karim Al Faransi. This oil is called Oud Amir. So I've had these samples for a really long time, and I don't know if this is how they are produced anymore, but this is, here's a close-up anyway. I will leave the link down below to their website, and the oil is like this. And it says Oud Amir on the back. For me, this is amazing. I don't think it's an oud heavy fragrance, an oud dominant fragrance. I'll have to check the note breakdown. This video is not really about going into the full details, but I think there might be a Cambodian oud in here. As I said, I will, maybe I'll leave like the link down below or something like that. But for me, this was fruity, dried fruits, caramel, sweet woods, a slightly dark nuance lingering in the background, which probably might be the oud. But so wearable, so it's like a smoky gourmand is maybe the most simplest way of describing it. I was really impressed with this. I have worn this one before, like as I said, I have a lot of samples from Abdul Karim Al Faransi, and it takes me a long time to like get through samples, but this one was really fantastic. Also, I did a couple of dabs throughout the week of some other ones. RBX 59 is really good. Sheikh Al Faransi is really good. So I think I need to maybe get back into wearing these. Yeah, really good fragrance. So as I said, I wore a couple of fragrances that day, and the second one I went for was a fragrance that actually I've already reviewed it, so I will leave the link down below. And it's from Xerjoff's Oud Stars collection, and this one is Fars. So I actually was given this sample by a sales assistant in Harrods when I made a purchase. And it's probably the one that I'm likely to buy next if I was to buy another one from the Oud Stars. I used to own Mamluk, and for me Fars it's quite an interesting blend actually. It comes across as quite balmy. There's some exotic white floral notes in here. And it's kind of like balmy and woody and oudy, but also quite wearable and quite very easy to wear. Like, I don't find the notes to be sharp or harsh. They don't scream off the skin, but it definitely is a potent fragrance, but it's not aggressive, basically. It's quite a soft floral oud, basically. I really like Fars, but you know, it's quite costly, so whether I'll get a bottle. I don't know. I'd like to get another Oud Stars back into the collection. As I said, I've only owned Mamluk. Yeah, maybe Faransi could be the next one. Okay, so moving on to Wednesday, I wore a fragrance by Ajmal. This is actually the first of 2 Ajmal fragrances that I wore this week, and I was working off this sample, which I've had for a long time. This one is called Dahn Al Oud Raysan. So yeah, I've had this sample like just, you know, knocking around for a long time and decided to give it a proper wearing. This is a combination of Indian and Cambodian oud oils. And it is on the potent side, but it does sort of calm down after that initial burst, which can be a little bit skanky, a bit pungent, but actually it turns into a very sweet woods, kind of basic, like quite simple as to what's there, but slightly sweet, smoky woods, a little bit of spice. It does have a slight kick to it, but nothing crazy. I think if you're a newcomer to oud, maybe this one might be a little bit too much, but I think it's a good place to start if you want to kind of get a feel for what oud can really bring to the table. This is a good fragrance. Yeah, I definitely am going to wear it again. I've got a little bit left, so yeah, this is an interesting fragrance for sure. So as I said, I don't normally wear 2 fragrances in a day, but this week I feel like all the rules went out the window, and I went with another fragrance from Xerjoff's Oud Stars collection. This one was Zafar. So again, I was working off a sample that was given to me, and Zafar is an absolute like monster, to be honest. You know, it does calm down after the opening, but my god, it is a potent. Yeah, it's a potent fragrance. The opening is like barnyardy, you know. If you really want to experience, and not everybody will, I get it, but if you want to experience like a barnyardy oud, yeah, give this one a go. It's actually, the juice is actually fairly clear. I don't know if you can see that, maybe, yeah, just about, but give it an opportunity to settle on the skin. I think this fragrance needs about an hour or so. It actually becomes really, really beautiful after about an hour and lasts a really long time. It's still on the potent side, but I get these wonderful intense spices. There is a kind of a oud which feels very rich and resinous. There's floral notes in here. It's a little bit dry, but also it has this dampness to it as well, which I found quite intriguing. Yeah, I mean, it's a potent fragrance. Look, it's not one that I'm going to be like wearing into the office, or it feels like more of a personal scent, you know, on those days when you're just doing your own thing. Yeah, Zafar definitely works, but is it one that fully works in my world? Not from a day-to-day basis, but I think there is definitely a place for this type of fragrance in my fragrance wardrobe, if you want to call it that. The House of Fragrance de Bois is one that likes to use oud in a lot of their fragrances, and this one is a decant of London oud. This is a fragrance that I've had actually for quite a long time, and you know, it happens. I mean, you guys, if you're a fragrance enthusiast, you'll know how it is. You buy loads of full bottles and then samples and decants also, and sometimes you just forget that you own some things. Well, that's how it is for me anyway. And London Oud was an interesting one because it's a fresher take on oud. It's certainly an expensive take on oud. Is it worth it? I will let you know in my review, but one thing I will say with this is that I do like the quality. There is quality there. It's kind of got this kind of marine-like quality. I feel like there could be pink pepper notes in here. Maybe a touch of lemon, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what the note breakdown is, but dry, cedary. There is kind of like a damp wood accord that comes through. I did enjoy this one on my skin, but well, there is something. I don't want to go into full detail. I will review this one, but there is something that I'm not quite too keen on with this fragrance, and I'll talk about it. But it's an interesting sort of take on oud, and I do like how it performed on my skin. It lasted for a really, really long time, but just lacked that wow factor for the price. Is basically what I'm getting at here. By Kilian have a fragrance called Pure Oud. I'm not sure if it's still around, if it's discontinued. I mean, it's on the Kilian website, but only in a refill format. So I'm not really sure about this one, but this was a sample that I've had for quite a long time. This one is called Pure Oud. There are, I guess, I think they're still in production, other ones like Rose Oud, Gold Oud, yeah, but I don't know. It's like, I feel like that side of Kilian doesn't really get spoken about too much. But I enjoy Pure Oud. I still think that, this fragrance is really pricey, like overly expensive. Like, to be honest, everything from by Kilian, or I think it's called Kilian Paris now. But this one was a dry, spicy, very easy to wear oud. It had a slight gasoline vibe in the opening, which actually I thought was quite nice. I think some people won't really, some people probably wouldn't like that opening. It's not like the highest quality Arabian style oud style fragrance that I've ever tried, but it's well put together, and it kind of reminded me in some ways to Creed's Royal Oud, not in terms of scent profile, but in this tailored smart oud, professional oud is maybe what I don't really know what I'm saying actually, but that's basically the impression I get. It's nothing harsh or skanky, it's quite well put together and that kind of style. So I mentioned that I wore 2 fragrances from Ajmal, and on Friday I wore a second fragrance by Ajmal, and this one is an oil. I picked this one up when I was in Mumbai, probably going back 5 or 6 years ago, and yeah, I've had this fragrance ever since. So the oil comes in this inside this little stand, and it comes like this. Because it was quite a long time ago, I can't actually remember what type of oud this is, and it doesn't say on the label, but I think this is an Indian oud, and I think that it's actually become a lot smoother over the years. So I'll give you a close-up. So it comes in this actually pretty nice presentation, and there you can see it says Dahn Al Oud, which means, I believe it means something along the lines of fat of the wood, or something along those lines. It's like basically the oil itself that's derived from the oud, which in case you didn't know is a so basically the Aquilaria tree will develop a fungus or get infected, and the tree's natural defense mechanism is to coat this infection with a resin, which then hardens and will then essentially harden, and that is actually what oud is. So if you cut open the tree, not all of it will be infected. You'll see the darker sides of it. This one I think is a very, very beautiful oil, and it needs time to just develop on the skin. It is essentially a sweet, smoky, leathery, slightly caramelly type oud. It's really, really interesting. And how I apply this, guys, in case you're interested, is that I take the dabber, I will apply some on my wrist, do like one swipe here, or maybe 2 swipes, and then I'll do the same on the other side. And then what I might do is that I might do a swipe just here, and then use that to just apply it to the back of the neck. And also one thing I've been doing recently is taking out the stick, or the dabber, whatever you want to call it, letting 1 drop of the oud drop onto my finger, and then using that and then spreading it around the chest, which really made the oil come to life. And actually I quite enjoyed it like that. So yeah, I've got plenty left, so it'll be interesting getting into this one. So on Saturday I went to Gucci and I wore Intense Oud. So a few years ago I reviewed Gucci Oud. This one is the intense version. I think how it works is that the intense version is supposed to be marketed towards men. I think simply because of the shape of the bottle of this one and the shape of the other one called Oud. They're typically found in the men's and females range of Gucci fragrances, but yeah, I don't know. This fragrance though is quite a nice fragrance. I don't find it to be intense, and I don't find it to be oudy, but I do find it to be very actually easy to wear, and just actually quite a pleasant fragrance. There is a rose syrup sweetness in this fragrance. It's slightly vanillic. It kind of has like a darker floral side to it, which is actually quite nice. And as I said, yeah, I think if you are somebody who doesn't necessarily want the skankiness from oud, or maybe you don't even want like the real oud, but you want a kind of an interpretation of oud, this might be a good place to start. I think I have read though on the Gucci website that they are using a natural oud oil in here. If that's what they're saying, okay, fine, but it doesn't come across as anything particularly authentic, which I don't have a problem with, but it's like a sweet woody fragrance basically. If it doesn't smell exactly like oud, okay, not a big deal, but it definitely smells good and I enjoyed wearing it. Moving on to Sunday, which is actually today. I'll be uploading this video tomorrow, and I went with a fragrance from Diptyque. I've got my hands on a 5 ml sample. This one is called Oud Palao. I have a little bit of experience with Oud Palao in the past. I've tried it on in store, in a Diptyque store, or wherever they've stocked Diptyque. I've tried it on paper, I've tried it on my hand, but I've never sort of properly worn it. And this stuff is really potent. I'm not 100% sure if I love this fragrance. It's spicy, it's skanky. It reminds me in some ways to Amouage Gold Man, which is a fragrance I don't really get on well with. Oud Palao has a dryness to it. It's a potent fragrance. I'm not saying that I dislike it. I do like parts of this fragrance, but it just comes across as a little bit too dry, a little bit sweaty, and a little bit too funky for my liking. But I'm going to persevere. I've got a lot to get through, and with all my reviews I try and wear as much as possible, so I'm going to stick with it. Maybe, you know, let me know your thoughts on this fragrance. What do you get out of it? So that concludes my exploration of oud in the week. I find it a note to be really fascinating. The fact that it can be so multifaceted, the fact that it's so revered in certain parts of the world, and the fact that it can come from, you know, multiple parts of Asia. It can smell different depending on the country, depending on how it is soaked, whether it's soaked in water or not, the age of the oud, and yeah, it's a really interesting world. Guys, let me know, are you a fan of oud? Do you know these fragrances? Have you tried them? Let me know some of your favorite oud based fragrances. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.